Yeah, so if you think of Emmons Field from the Wheel of Time series, it's a poverty-stricken village in the middle of nowhere. Uh, but that village doesn't really seem to have any of the qualities of a poverty-stricken village that I grew up in. And that is kind, warm, law-abiding. The only real problems is you've got Matt Cawthon's family, who is a little bit of a nuisance, and there's a crotchety old Thatcher who makes trouble. But other than that, there's kind of no real dysfunction in the town. It's very kind of nice. And I'd like to mention, by the way, I love the Wheel of Time series, so I'm not criticizing it at all. It's just kind of like it's the perfect test for what I've created, because I grew up in one of the most economically disadvantaged areas in the UK, an area called the Valleys in South Wales, and it's an area of outstanding natural beauty, but it stands at kind of a stark contrast with the towns that kind of they're like bordering on destitution in places. And I recognize I personally had a relatively privileged upbringing compared to those around me. But I saw many of my friends, neighbors, schoolmates, and all that skirt the poverty line, engage in the trappings of a typical poor upbringing, so drug use, criminality, petty and otherwise, violence. And this is, these are small places. They're not big sprawling urban centers. It's kind of like it's like a relatively tight valley, and then there's loads of towns kind of snaking their way up the valley floor, and it's a beautiful place, but it's also right on the poverty line. And I sort of like, one of the things about areas of economic deprivation like this is that the people themselves have an incredible amount of heart despite all the flaws. And there's sort of like a magnetic culture that breeds national pride. And it'll always be somewhere I'm forever proud to call home, but I still see it for what it is, and there's a lot of problems that in the towns. And really, that's kind of my experience of living in a relatively poor area is not everybody there is kind, warm, law-abiding. Um, there is a fair amount of darkness that happens in these places as well, and my story is kind of intended to be like a mirror to that sort of environment. Perry Grove is the town where all the protagonists, the 10 teenagers, grew up in. And it does have a problem with drugs. It's not necessarily the most friendly place in the world, but everybody there knows each other, and they've got that heart. And despite what happens in the offset of the book, where the 10 teenagers get banished, that DNA is brought into those characters as they explore the wildlands. So yeah, that was kind of where I focused, and I wanted to see a town that mirrored something that I knew. I never really saw that in fantasy without it being sort of overtly, a den of criminality, which it's not. These things are they're never like that. They're very complex, multi-layered things. But the dark aspects are there and present, and that feeds into who these characters end up becoming.
Yeah, no, I think that makes total sense.